Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to continue to see the prehistory and ancient Mediterranean world. So in the last video, we learned Mesopotamia and Egypt. Today, we are going to see Greece and Rome. So in Mesopotamia, we saw a city-state by Sumerian and first empire by Akkadian, and the second empire by Babylonian, and the third empire by Assyrians, and the last empire by Neo-Babylonian. And we learned Egypt, right? And now let's see Greece. So the Greece comes from Aegean culture. The artistic cultures of the Aegean paralleled in time those of Egypt and Mesopotamia about 3000 BCE. And the last period of Greece is called Hellenism. And it's Rome. So Rome began before the century and continued to the 4th and 10th century. So now let's briefly see the Aegean culture first before the Greece. So Greek culture arose on the lands bordering sea, the Aegean Sea. There are three Aegean major cultures: the Cycladic, the Minoan, and the Mycenaean. So the Cycladic is centered on a group of small islands in the Aegean. And Cycladic art is a puzzle because we know almost nothing about the people who made it. It consists almost exclusively of nude female figures. And the next one is Minoan art. So the Minoan culture is based on the island of Crete here at the southern end of the Aegean, centered on the great city of Knossos. Minoan culture can be traced to about 3000 BCE. And we take the name from a legendary king called Minos, who supposedly ruled at Knossos. The palace at Knossos features post and intel construction with painted columns topped by pillow-like capitals. And the last culture of Aegean is Mycenaean. So Mycenaean culture, so called because it formed around the city of Mycenae, flourished on the south coast of the Greek mainland. Mycenaean built palaces and temples, but they are also noted for their elaborate burial customs and tombs like Egyptians. And burial places in and around Mycenae have yielded large quantities of exquisite gold objects, such as rhyton in the shape of a lion's head. So the word classical refers to two cultures, Greece and Rome. It aesthetically indicates artwork of the highest quality and standards. So Greek philosophers were the first to speculate on the nature and purpose of art. Sculpture, painting, and architecture were discussed as technique. In our words, technology and technique. So technique is things requiring a special body of knowledge and skill to make. And there are three artistic periods in Greek art. So the first is the Archaic period. And the next period is the Classical period. And the last period is the, Hellenistic period. So let's see Archaic period first. So this is called crater, and crater is one of many standard Greek pottery shapes. A crater was a vessel used for wine. And this is Kouros, in Greek statue depicts an anonymous boy. And thousands of such figures were curved, all of them in the same pose, and all nude, young, and idealized, with broad-shouldered, slim-waisted, and bodies. In Greek, female statue is called kore. And the painting technique on the pottery looks like this. It's called red figure style. The ground is painted black like this, and while figures are left mostly unpainted with only thin black lines to describe the forms. The red that result is the natural color of fired earth. Earlier archaic pottery had employed the reverse color scheme with black figures painted on a red ground. So now let's move on to the classical period of Greece. The classical period dates from 480 to 323 BCE, and it is considered to be the height of Greek art. The Greeks invented contrapposto. This is it. This is called contrapposto pose to express the potential for motion inherent in a standing human. Bronze was the favored material for freestanding sculpture in ancient Greece. So let's compare these two styles of Greek sculptures. The left one is archaic sculpture, Kouros, and the right one is classical period sculpture, contrapposto. So we can clearly see the differences between these two sculptures, right? So what are the differences? So the left one is the archaic Kouros sculpture. It was an amazing achievement to create a freestanding human sculpture, right? Despite of the great process, it still looks unnatural and less detailed. And the movement is very limited. So we can find the movement only on the left foot. On the other hand, the classical contrapposto sculpture shows incredibly natural movement, and it has lots of details. So very realistic. So we can tell this is the height of Greek art. And although all ancient Greek and Rome art is broadly known as classical, the art produced during classical period was considered by later European scholars to be the finest of the finest. So Athens, this is the Athens. Athens was the cultural and artistic center at the time. Athens, which was chef of the city-states, had been built around a high hill, Acropolis. So this is Parthenon at Acropolis. In Greeks, dedicated to the goddess Athena, Parthenos, or Athena, the warrior maiden. The Parthenon is a Doric style temple with these columns called Doric style, and all around the external and inner row of columns on each of the short walls. So let's see the Doric style columns in detail. So this is the Doric style that the Parthenon has. So the Doric style column is simple and classical compared to the other two column styles, such as Ionic and Corinthian. So what's the difference of Doric style? So let's focus on the columns shape. The columns shape. Is it straight? So the thickness between the bottom and the top is not same at all, right? So the Doric style's columns are not straight like this example image. However, tall columns may appear to bend inward at the center, so they look absolutely straight from the viewer's eyes. Does it make sense? So that is called entasis. The architect of the classic Greek art calculated the relative errors by the viewers and applied it to the temple. So this is amazing because they did it 2,500 years ago. And the last period of Greek art is called Hellenistic and begins about 323 BCE. And this style emphasizes balance and restraint while also favoring dynamic poses and extreme emotion. So sculpture of this era poses with theatrical quality and complex poses, just like this. So there is a video about Hellenistic art in the Moodle room. So please watch it to see more beautiful Hellenistic art. So now we can recognize the different styles by the Greek art period, right? So the archaic period shows the limitation to show the movement, and the classical period shows the completed technique to create natural and classic freestanding sculpture. And the Hellenistic period shows emotions and dynamic movement beyond the classic. Please remember the differences by each period of Greece. And now let's move on to Rome. The Roman era begins about 510 BCE. It overlaps the Greek era. The Romans admired Greek art and copied many of their works. So the most of Hellenistic sculptures we see are not original. The most of the original Greek sculptures were destroyed by the church during the Middle Age. We're going to learn it next week. So the most of Greek sculptures we are able to see are made by Romans. So we just saw this Hellenistic sculpture of Greece, right? So these are all copied works by Romans. So Roman art tends toward realism. So as you can see on the left wall painting, the fresco painting, all the figures look very natural and realistic. And the Romans were best known for their architecture and engineering. Their most famous monument is the Colosseum. The Colosseum covers over 6 acres and it has 80 arched entryway and exits. And it's accommodated over 50,000 people. It's a truly symbol of Rome. So this is the inside of the Colosseum. So that's it for the prehistory and ancient Mediterranean world chapter. So I hope you enjoy to see all the ancient arts throughout this chapter. So now next week we're gonna see the Middle Age art. Bye.